Hi, welcome to Good Work Now. And today's topic is called Managing Transitions. And I'm very pleased to welcome to our show today Becky Shook. Becky is a psychology practitioner with 15 years of experience in the psychology field. She has her BA in psychology and her Master of Arts in industrial organizational psychology. Her specialty area is in moving people through transitions of all kinds. And she does this as a principal consultant of her own company called Plan for Future. Recently, she has also been applying her transition skills in supporting people through divorce negotiations within a second company she owns called Fairway Divorce Solutions. Becky, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Yeah.
Great list of accomplishments. And today, Becky and I are going to talk about transitions, what they are, and how to manage them. And right now, a lot of us are going through a lot of transitions in the workplace in terms of maybe being laid off, changing our career, adjusting to changes in the work environment because of downsizing or restructuring. And all these work transitions impact your life. And so it's not just work transitions we'll be talking about, it's also going to be looking at how they impact your whole being. And Becky, let's go ahead and start with the first area. What is a transition?
So when I talk about transition, the first thing that I like to differentiate is what is the difference between change and transition.
Okay.
A lot of times you hear the words used interchangeably, but they're different. So the way that I differentiate them is change is the actual event or situation that occurs. So something happens, change, right? The transition is the emotional space that people move through in order to come from the past to whatever the future state is going to be.
Okay, so as an example, let's say that you get laid off. The change is receiving the layoff notice.
Yes.
And then the emotional state could be fear.
Yes.
Could be anger.
Yes.
Could be sadness, or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Or let's say that there's a restructuring in the work environment, and the change is that your role is shifting from something to something else.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then how you feel about that transition. Well, that's a really good distinction. It's helpful to know that. Let's talk a little bit about what personal transition looks like. What are your thoughts about that?
What personal transition looks like. There are a couple thoughts I have about that. And the way I like to look at it is that I think that there is a standard way that people move through transition, but I also do think that it's specific to the person.
Okay.
So the standard way is there's various different kinds of transition curves. You can look in the literature and find many different kinds, and it might be something when change happens, there's this reaction of denial.
Right.
And you might move to shock and confusion. You know, eventually you'll move to exploration and hopefully get to commitment. I think that that's a pretty generic way that people move through transition. And I do like to bring that to the table when I'm helping people, because it does give people something to go, oh, this is what I'm experiencing.
There's some kind of anchor, some kind of framework.
Yeah.
And that helps people be able to identify it. It's hard to talk about something you don't know how to talk about.
Yeah.
So by doing that model, it gives people a guideline to have a conversation about.
I have done is taken and developed and designed an assessment. So the background is that William Bridges, who is a famous change guru, I remember reading his book, and he had identified these different transition styles. And I thought, God, wouldn't it be cool if people could actually assess what they are instead of just reading about it and thinking, well, maybe that's who I am. So I designed this for the purposes of being able to help people understand that transition. And so there are 6 different transition styles, you could say.
Okay.
There's attachment, turf, future, structure, meaning, and control.
Okay.
And the way that I like to talk about it is that it's a disruption in the way that you do things.
Okay.
So for an example, the first one is attachment. And for a person who has an attachment style, a disruption for them when change occurs looks like a fear and concern that they're going to not have the people around them that they would normally have around them, or that in some way a relationship is going to be changed. I won't sit next to this person anymore, and that's not good because I talk to them every day, or I won't be in the same unit as this person. So that would be an attachment response.
Okay.
A turf response is based on two dimensions. It's based on physical workspace, or it's based on a particular area of responsibility that you hold on to tightly. So disruption looks like, okay, I could be moving. Maybe this isn't going to be my office anymore, or maybe I'm going to have to move to a completely different building. Or it could be around, this is my responsibility. I'm focused on really moving the paper through, and now I'm going to have to do something different, like use technology.
Good example.
Yeah, really big one. So their responsibilities changing. Future is focused on people having a fear of disrupting their career path, or somewhere they're certain they're going. I mean, they're going somewhere in the future, and now you take that away, and it's not clear anymore. So that's a disruption in the future.
Right.
Structure is really just a disruption in anything that a person has set up to provide structure for them. And it's not in this case, the structure is not so much physical as it is mental. It's that we set up mental structures in order to get through our day, and change happens, and those mental structures are no longer relevant. So it's structureless, and now
almost
it's
like guidelines you have in your head of how to proceed in the day.
Yeah, exactly. And then meaning is really the ultimate question related to that is why. Do I understand why? So if a change occurs and I don't get why it's occurring, that's a big disruption for me. There's got to be some fulfillment. So if you change my job and it's not fulfilling any longer, that's a big disruption to me.
It's interesting from a change management perspective. We're always hearing that managers and leaders need to communicate why, the rationale, because that really addresses folks that fall into this dimension, I would think.
It does, absolutely. And the last one is control. And control is based on autonomy, being able to have control over your own destiny in the workplace, being able to have freedom to do what you want to do. So when that is taken away, that is the disruption and fear around not being able to do what I want to do.
Right. Let's spend a little time talking about tips that you may have for managing transitions, just general tips that you may have.
And in the example like you used, I think what's important from a tip standpoint, number one, it should be customizable to the individual, but also the transition style. If somebody has a style around future, one of the best ways to help them is to sit down and be able to walk through what their new future will look like. And how many times do we do that?
Exactly. Like scenario planning.
Yeah.
Like there's just some possible roles that you may be falling into in the future. We don't know for sure yet, but here's some possibilities. Any other examples of tips that you can think of?
I have another one around structure, which I like, is it seems obvious, but often not done at all, because when change happens and that structure is disrupted, sitting down with an employee and allowing them to create structure for themselves around the change is so easy. It's just sitting down and saying, okay, so I know that this is more ambiguous now. What could we do to build a new structure for yourself? Whether it be you sitting down and having an action item list related to the change. Okay, well now they come in every day, they have their clear action items of what they're gonna do. That's structure. So it's being able to give them the opportunity to come up with what that structure would look like so they feel more comfortable.
And actually that can also tap into the control area.
Yeah.
Because if you're giving someone the opportunity not only to build their structure, but have some control in their destiny. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. And again, thank you for watching. And until next time, keep up the good work.